next in line? Will the prize be trumps this time? Who's next? Who's next to lead? Questions now we need to heed. Future's bright or is it gray? Who will show us the way? What's the deal with fence, we ask? Hidden figure behind the mask. Leaders come, they rise, they fall. Who's the one to heed the call? Who's next? Who's next to lead? Questions now we need to heed. Future's bright or is it gray? Who will show us the way? Who's next to lead? Questions now we need to heed. Future's bright or is it gray? Who will show us the way?
Good evening. Welcome, one and all. First of all, background noise check. How does it sound? Do I sound okay? Can you hear me all right? I've still got the fan on, but I've enabled the background noise reduction. So good evening, one and all. Good evening, Shalini, Soul Rebel, Julie C. So just let me know. Did you like the little intro song, if you heard it? Loud and clear, says Shalini. Audio good. Excellent. Excellent. All good. Right. So I thought we'd talk about policing today because it's something I've got some experience of, both from being one and working within them and then working with them. I mean, I did, 9-10 years almost as a project manager for Police Scotland, working in almost every, in fact, I think I've been in almost every police station in Scotland, bar the Shetland Isles and Mull and Skye. I didn't go to those, but I've been in almost every other one. So, what I thought I'd talk about is because I'm getting mixed messages from you people. And when I say you people, I just mean people in general. I don't mean our dear audience, because obviously our audience are quite switched on and know what they're talking about and know what they want. And, you know, on Chasing Dissent, Ben and I have always said that we favour less government, less interference, let people do things their own way. But when you're in a civilised, dare I say, a civilised society, there's always a certain element that will try and take advantage of you. And I suppose that's what you use the police for. And in some respects, they're not really the arm of government, or they shouldn't be, because they should be standalone. They should be doing their job without fear or favour, which is part of the oath that I took. And I actually had a look at the oath as it is today, and it's completely different now. The Scottish oath says nothing about the Queen, or as it was then, the Queen. Now, but it did when I took it, because you took an oath to the Queen to discharge the duties of constable without fear or favour, and that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. It now seems to be you're firm and take an oath to discharge the duties of constable, but not to anyone in particular. So that's quite. I think the English forces, they still take an oath to the Queen, and I believe when you join the armed forces, I still think you take an oath. Well, it will be the King now, but I think you still say you still take an oath to the King when you join the armed forces. Right, so the things that get me are things like when we look at what's happening in Leeds, and I mean it seems to be resolved for the moment. I'm not saying it's been resolved the best way, but you look at what happened in Leeds, and if you think about it, what effectively happened was that social services took away a couple's kids because I think one of them fell out a window, a first floor window. They took them to hospital, and the questions are then asked: how does a toddler or a baby that whatever manage to climb up and fall out a window? So they're not being properly watched. So I think social services took some of the kids away. I don't know if they took them all. I really haven't paid that much attention to it, but there was a complete uproar and rioting occurred as a result of it by mainly Romani travellers, I think, that had kind of settled in that area. Now, there's a contradiction in terms. Travellers that settled. So what does that make them? Anyway, there seem to be quite a lot of Romanis. And, you can say what you like about travellers, but they've been part of the British system for many, many years. I've always grown up knowing that travellers would come and go, and they always leave a mess. They arrive, they may leave a mess, and then they go away. And then the council started providing sites for them that they would still trash, and then they started providing houses for them, and they would still trash. And I'll tell you some stories. I mean, I might tell you a story tonight about policing from the front line, as it applied back then in the 80s and 90s. So you have to tamper it or temper it with what's actually going on these days. But I think the photograph on the thumbnail actually does show you the difference in policing, because when I joined, it was crisp white shirt, short sleeved in the summer, crisp white shirt, black tie, and battle dress tunic, and that was your uniform. And you wore that all the time, except in the summer when you were allowed to divest your jacket. And you were only allowed to divest your jacket when you were told that you could divest your jacket. And both you and your neighbour, which is what we called our partner in Scotland, both you and your neighbour had to conform. So if you were going out, say on the beat, and both of you were going to be jacketless, then you both had to leave your jacket behind. If you were going out in the beat and one of you wanted to wear the jacket, then the other guy had to wear the jacket. So yeah, you had to be identical. And then you were not allowed, and certainly as long as I was a police officer, you were not allowed to divest yourself of your tie. I never stayed in long enough to lose the shirt. We always had the shirt and tie. And you were not allowed to divest yourself of the tie, regardless of how hot it got. Regardless. No, the tie stayed on. The only time you could take your tie off was when you were in the office and working, writing reports or having your break or whatever. You could take your tie off then, when you were not to be seen by the public. If you were working in the office on the front desk, you had to have your tie on. So there were standards there within the police, just in the dress code. But I think standards like that go much further. They imbue a sense of pride and a sense of duty within every officer that's working. And yeah, there'd be bad officers and good officers, but generally, you worked within a disciplined force that held itself accountable and to standards. And that might sound, you might think I'm talking nonsense, but that's how I felt, and I was part of that. And I didn't feel that, that we were. I didn't feel that we were there mocking the people all the time. Oh, don't get me wrong, we did mock the people, and we had some really funny stories. But you were there to help people. You didn't join the police to go and crack heads. You were there to help people and to feel that you were making a difference. Much as I think people join the fire service or join the forces or become a nurse or a doctor or whatever, you're there. Well, maybe not doctors, but I think everybody else is there to help people, and that was what they intended to do. And I don't know if the police is like that anymore, because I see a big change in it, particularly with younger people coming in who are less obsessed with personal self pride and with doing a good job, but with following rules that seem to be quite arbitrary. And now, the thing about early police, or the police as I recall, was you had to make a lot of decisions on your own because you were out there on your own most of the time. And we had radios, yeah, but they were pretty rudimentary, and a lot of times, you couldn't get back to control because there were big dead spots. You just couldn't get a radio signal. So you were on your own a lot, and you had to make decisions. And where I worked, which was Irvine, birthplace of Nicola Sturgeon, and Kilwinning, before I moved into the traffic, where I worked down there, very rural. So, our nearest backup was 5-7 minutes away, and going at a good lick. So it's not as if you could call on your mate to come around the corner, because sometimes there was only two of you policing a population of 20,000 people. And that was normal. That was normal. That was a kind of ratio. So, right. So, what was I going to say? So the thing I tweeted today was, what is it that people actually want? Because do they want? When you looked at what happened in Leeds, they seem to be wanting the police to take more action now. Let's remember, this is a social service-led event, right? And the police won't take point on this. The police will advise, and they will back up what needs to be done. But the police don't take point on it. So the social services have decided that they were going to take these kids, and the police are there to provide backup and security. And they took the kids away, and then all hell broke loose. And I saw a video of a British guy going, look, stop, and the police coming up and taking them away, and people are going, why have they arrested him? Was it, well, you don't know what happened to him, right? But secondly, what would you do? You're a police officer. You're there. You've got an angry mob, which is what you've got, right? You've got limited numbers. You're not in riot gear. I don't know how far away your backup is. You've already had 3 days of rioting. What would you do? Would you take that guy away and have a word with him and say, look, could you calm it down, because we're trying to keep a lid on this? You go in there, you're either going to get your head kicked in, and then we're going to have to come and rescue you, or, if we try and protect you, then they're all going to go nuts and start another riot. So you've got to be pragmatic. So I think the police officers made the right choice in pulling him out of that situation. And let's be fair, police officers don't make the right choice all the time. A lot of times they don't do it at all. Now, you people that live in London, that's a different experience altogether, because London is London's just it's out with my knowledge right now. I've worked in Glasgow. I've worked all over Scotland, but I've worked in Glasgow predominantly for most of my career, both as a traffic officer and a firearms officer. And working in Glasgow, I don't think is like working in London, because you still police generally by consent. You don't police by force of numbers. And I think the problem with London is you can police by force of numbers because you've got so many cops. I mean, there was over, 30,000 cops in the Met. In fact, I can't remember how many there's, but there's a stack in the Met. You know, the Met might have near 50,000 cops. They've got a lot of cops. You know, there was 27,000 cops in Strathclyde when I was in it. 27,000 cops is a lot. We were the second biggest force in the UK after the Met. But we weren't policing by force because we didn't have the force to do it. And the only time you've got the force is when something extraordinary occurs that you can plan for, like, for instance, a miners' strike, where you would bring in cops from all different forces. And, you know, because the miners' strikes were always based around either mines or docks um, or coal plants, you know, so you knew where they were going to target. So you were always able to put police officers there. If they started targeting things that weren't part of that, you'd have no chance, you know. So it was always policing by consent. And as part of policing by consent, you have to have some give and take. And I don't know if London has that. So I can't comment on the way they behave down there. But I'm pretty sure Leeds is much the same as policing Glasgow, you know. You've got a finite amount of resource, and yeah, you can get mutual aid. So if things had really kicked off and kept going, you'd have got people in from neighbouring forces, but that takes time. You know, that takes time to plan, time to get them there, time to operate properly. Now, it appears that the social services have relented and have given the kids back. And some would say, well, the mob have won and the police have failed. Well, but it's not the police's decision to give the kids back. It's nothing to do with the police. The police will be advising and they'll say, well, if you hang on to them, there's a good chance there'll be a riot. But I mean, we can prepare for that. But you have to take the consequences because, you know, people will be injured, people will be arrested, people will be prosecuted, cops will be injured, cops will be hurt, people might die, you know. So you have to remember that there is a whole list of consequences to having a riot or allowing a riot, just for you to be right. And I'm not saying it's right to give the kids back, but you have to bear in mind and be pragmatic as to how you police a situation. And if you do it with force, you're then going to end up that how are you going to start building bridges back to these people? So, you know, it's a very, very difficult situation, isn't it? And it's not cut and dried. And people will say, well, there's two-tier policing, you know. Well, yeah, there might well be. There might well be. But again, that's mainly London. Up in Scotland, when you see football fans fighting each other, it doesn't matter if they're Rangers or Celtic, they both get lifted. It doesn't matter if they're Scottish or English, they both get lifted, you know. The amount of English people that you arrest at Scotland-England games that are surprised because they wouldn't have been arrested in England because what they did wasn't considered a crime. You know, so I think policing, in some respects, although it's by consent, it was much harder in Scotland. You know, they didn't get away with as much. I don't know what it's like now because I've been out of that game for over 5 years now since I last worked for the police. So yeah. So the questions that I asked on the Twitter feed, just to get back to it, are you want the police to take action, but you don't want the police to interfere, right? And think about this. These are things that you're effectively saying. You know, you don't want two-tier policing, but you want hard policing on people that step out of line, unless it's you, right? so yeah, it's good. In fact, let me get the tweet. Let me get the tweet so that I can get it properly. I apologise for this, because where is it? Right, I don't understand. I said you want less police and more police. Well, that's true because you want less interference, but you also want the police to be there in numbers when they do need to interfere. You want less action and more action. Yeah, you want less action if people are protesting calmly, but you want more action if they're not. Um, and you want the army on the streets, which that's what people have been asking for this Hartfield thing and the stuff in Ireland, right? So you want the army on the streets, but you want more freedoms. So we've only spoken about the police just now, and we'll get on to the army because there's big problems in using the army in policing situations, especially in the UK, and we've done it. We have done it. Remember. So how are we doing? Let's just check in on the. I look lovely. Why? Thank you, Shalini. I look lovely in my uniform. See how police are dressed, and now a lot are very unkempt. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they look very paramilitary now, don't they? Which exudes a kind of aggression, and I think they're less approachable. It's a completely different feel, isn't it? It's a bit like you know you would get we'd be policing in Glasgow and it'd be a beautiful summer's day or something, and you'd be walking the street or sitting in a car, and an American would always come up and ask you, if they could take your photo with you, and then they would say, "You British bobbies are brilliant," and you're like, "I don't know what a British bobby is because that's not us." But anyway, but they never go and do that with their own cops, which is always a bit. Apart from me, of course, because you'll probably have seen my photos with New York City cops and sitting on their Harleys and stroking their horses. Cops are really accommodating to their cops. But anyway, excuse me, it is still warm even though I've got the fan on. Everyone should be treated the same by the police, but time and time again that's not happening, and we have two-tier policing here in the UK. Well, yes, and I think you might be right, but I think most of that two-tier policing, Shalini, happens in London. And I think I've tried to explain why I think that happens in London, because the police have got this into their head that they can police by force there because they have so many numbers and everything's really tight and close and they can get people there really quickly. When you're not policing by force, you have to be sensible and you have to think about the actions that you take and what will happen as a result of them. Oh, but I might well be wrong. I mean, the police are the thing about the police are people, so they're just as fallible as you and I. In fact, they are you and I. So they will make their own decisions and they'll make the wrong choices. And the only thing you could hope would be that they would learn from that and not do them again. That's always not necessarily the case, but hey. So let me tell you a story. I was out one night policing with let's say Kevin, right? We're walking the street in Coinning, and it's like the back of 12 o'clock, and we're going round. You had to check your property because that's when policing, I thought, became a bit strange, because what happened was that I thought policing was there to protect people when I started, and then I found out that you had to always check your property, and if your property got done, the gaffer would go nuts at you because if you missed it. And I'm thinking, well, hold on, what are we actually protecting here? We're protecting corporate. I mean, I was probably thinking too much, but I'm thinking we're protecting corporate instances over the safety of people. And yeah, that's kind of what you were doing. But anyway, we're around the back of the Chinese takeaway, and there's a queue of people, and they're there after hours trying to get Chinese takeaways, and that's a no-no, and it's not a no-no because of licensing and all that. From our perspective, it was a no-no because what happened was, if people that come out the pub and then they hung about behind the Chinese, they ended up fighting each other, and people died. Yeah, people genuinely did die. So we had a basically a standing order, no after hour sales. So we shut it down. Chinese shut the door. The people are all wandering off, and then there's three or four maybe 5 guys in a group. It looked like it looked like the people out of Brassic. One of them was really tall, right? Let's just say his name was Eddie or whatever. And they're all giving it, we didn't get our chips and all that. And I'm saying, look, right, you know the score, guys. You can't do this. And if you want your chips, you need to come out earlier and get them before the place is shut. And they're like, being belligerent. And then the big one starts going, well, what are you going to do if we just take it out on you right now? And I said, well, I'm going to fight you back. I said, but and my mate, he's shitting himself. He wasn't long in winning, so he didn't really know many. But I'm like, well, I'm going to fight you back, but I'll probably get a doing because there's 5 of you and only 2 of us. And he's like, yeah, you would get a doing. You would. We'd do you right in. And I said, but you have to remember, there's loads of people in my gang, right? No, it was, I think, 7,000 cops in Strathclyde, 27,000 in the Met. That's where it was. So I says, I've got 7,000 people in my gang. And if you do me in and don't kill, or even if you do kill me, those 7,000 people are going to come gunning for you. So you have to really think about what you want before you take that action. And you could see it, they're thinking about it. Yeah, okay, maybe he's got a point. And so we escaped that one. And I'm like, we get round the corner, and Keith or Kevin or whatever it was who was with, he's like, that was brilliant, John. How'd you come up with that? And I goes, fuck no, I'm just winging it, mate. But that's how you had to be. And the beauty is, because you know them, you could talk to them. I mean, I remember one night I'm driving the van. We're going to a call because people had half wrecked a pub or something. We're going to a call and we come screaming down the high street, and there's this big group running down off to the right, and the stamps on the brakes, squeals the van round, and then you can't get the van, so you can only get it so far down the street because of pedestrian precincts. So jumps out the van and it just shouts, Johnston, stop right there. We know who you are. There's no point in running. He stopped. He stopped and came back. Because he knew he was caught, just because we obviously knew him, so it was quite a laugh. But that's how we had fun, But it was quite touch and go at some points as well. But yeah, so that's how we did it in those days. And I don't think they've got the same. I don't think they've got the same connection these days. But when I was out and round at police stations and things when I was doing the IT for them, it's like they don't go out and walk anymore. When was the last time you saw a cop walking? Again, if you're in London, I don't know, you might get that, but I haven't seen a cop walking the beat for 5 years. I just haven't. They're always in a car. I've never seen a cop walking the beat. So how do they talk to people? How do they get to know what's going on in their area? And I don't think they have areas anymore. I think they just get assigned, they just get assigned when they go into the muster and sent out to patrol an area in the car. And that's completely different from how we used to work, because we used to get a beat and we'd be in that beat between 6 months and a year before you'd probably change. I mean, you'd have days where you would get to do something else. Or if you're probationary, you'd be sent around all the different, kind of areas and things. But you really had your own beat and you looked after it and you got to know people. And I don't think policing does that anymore. And I think that's a big failing. And when you don't know the people that you're policing, how are you supposed to be effective? So really, we're back to policing by force now, because nobody knows anybody, and you're just applying the legislation. And the thing was, we used initiative. There were times when people had done something wrong and you would let them off because they'd done something minor wrong and you let them off. See, the next time you caught them, or the next time you were looking for information, there's a good chance you were going to get, a better reception than if you just locked the guy up for what would be a minor crime and a slap on the wrist. So yeah, I think policing's lost an awful lot. I don't think it's like it is. It probably still is way up in the Highlands or in the islands because there aren't that many cops and everybody knows everybody. But the rest of the place, I think it's all gone to pot. Now, serious civil disorder and the army. So the problem is when you ask the army to take control, the army take control. So there's a procedure for this. You don't just the government just doesn't turn around and go, put the army in there. What happens is the local police superintendent or commander or whoever's in charge of that area says to the government that he no longer has the capability of controlling the area and requires the assistance of the armed services. And at that point, he effectively hands over control to the army. So at that point, you effectively have martial law, and you don't want the army in charge of your policing because the army aren't trained in how to police. They don't operate under the same rules of engagement. And then suddenly they do because their rules of engagement for warfare is completely different from a policing operation. And so if you're trying to put them into a policing operation where they don't have a knowledge of the law, they don't know what's going on, it becomes very heavy-handed, and ultimately, I think it ends up in brutality. And you only have to look at Northern Ireland. When the army went in there, and when the army first went in, they were seen as saviours because it quietened everything down, and everybody thought it was going to be great. But it doesn't take long for the local civilian population to start resenting this, and then to start fighting back, and fighting back in the most insidious and horrible ways. So you don't want the army in a policing situation. That's not what they're designed for, and it's not what you want. Regardless of how bad the civil disobedience is, you really want it to be dealt with by the police. And and we're back to, do you want civil disobedience to be hammered, or do you want it to be worked out? So this is the problem with modern day society. Everybody wants what they think is best for them, and sometimes it's a very contrary view. Because I don't like what those people are doing, so they should all be in jail. But if I do something very similar, right, very similar, but I'm protesting against this, I should be okay. Well, where do you draw the line? And that you're back to without fear and favour. And I think we should all go back to making, police officers in particular should all go back to making an oath and fulfilling the terms of that oath and being allowed to, and not being sent on stupid public relations exercises where, like, for instance, Police Scotland paid officers on their days off. They give them a day's wage to come out and participate in the Pride March. Why? Why? Don't do that. If cops want to do it, let them do it. If they don't want to do it, don't. They can do it on their day off, but you don't pay them to go and do it. That's virtue signaling of the worst possible kind, because that, to me, is bow dowing, bow dowing, bow, bowing, bowing down to the population and not taking responsibility for the service that they're meant to be providing. What they're doing is they're going out and saying, "Oh, look at us. We're just like you. We'll put rainbows on our cars." No, you're not. You're not. And that's not what you're meant to do. You're meant to provide a service. And we want nothing other than you to provide that service fairly and with impartiality. And that's where the police need to be back to. And that's the problem. Forget all this virtue signalling crap. Stop it. You don't want woke police. You just want them to apply the law fairly and with some degree of intelligence. And it really disturbs me when I see some of the police officers we've got out there that won't, they won't make a decision. They'll lift everybody left, right, and centre. Yeah, there's times and places. There's times and places. I mean, we arrested a guy. We went to a road accident one night. A woman who she'd had a child, and she'd had quite a bad time, and she'd been in and out of hospital. And she'd come out, and she was feeling a lot better. She was great, and they went out on a night out. And she had a few too many, and she was crossing the road and got struck by a vehicle and knocked to the ground. And then a taxi behind the vehicle that knocked her to the ground ran over her. So you can imagine. So we were at this, and her husband turned up, and you can imagine the guy just lost it. I mean, he completely lost it, right? And you can understand that, right? And we arrested him, and we had to put him in handcuffs and take him back to the office to calm him down. And we got the police surgeon out and all that. He never ever got charged with anything, right? But we got him out of that situation, and we took him back, and we spoke to him, and we got him down, and we got him calmed down eventually. Because you imagine the horror that he's just seen. And his wife had maybe not been out the house for 8 months or whatever, and that's her gone, and he's left with the kid. But apart from that, you've got to be aware of how things affect people, and anybody nowadays would be on camera, right? And it'd be like, look, the police arrested this guy, right? And you know nothing else. You know nothing else of what happened and the circumstances. This guy's wife got run down and he got arrested. And it was nothing to do with him, and that would be the headline. But can you imagine that being that guy and just losing it? I mean, he just lost it, and he had to be restrained for his own safety, not other people's, but for his own safety. And that's something that it's very hard and horrible to witness, and it's even harder to deal with. I don't know what the police would do these days. I don't know if they would do such a thing, or if they'd just go, not my problem, and walk away. I really don't. Because that's the kind of impression I get from a lot of cops these days, not my problem. But as I said, we were part of the community in effect. And, you got to know the people you were working with and working for. And I think policing's lost an awful lot these days. And I think people have lost an awful lot. And the whole trust between the police and the public is completely gone. I mean, I've been very very aggressive, not aggressive, but very demanding of police officers that do stupid things. If they try and pull you up for something that's not an offence, then why are you even starting this? Because you're not going to win. So yeah, and that's one of the first things you pick up as a young cop is don't pull someone up for something that they haven't done. If they haven't done something wrong, what's the point in pulling them up? Because you can't do anything about it. If you arrest them and take them back to the office, the sergeant's going to throw them out and scalp you in the head. Well, he won't scalp you in the head these days, but yeah. It is long gone. You're right. You're right, Shalini. It is long gone. I think it might be. It might be. And did you see? I don't know if you saw that video of the guy who was a police officer who was trying to explain to some guy that was filming him what he was doing, and someone that can't articulate themselves shouldn't be out on the street, because he didn't come across confidently at all. Now, by the time you're out on the street, you've had a certain degree of training. You don't just get flung out on the street, with no training. So they said he was a trainee, but you've been at the down in England, you've been at the College of Policing, which I've worked in before. I've put in some Microsoft systems for them. So you're either been at the College of Policing or you've been up at Tullyallen in Scotland. So you've had, I mean, up in Scotland, you've had 12 weeks training before you went on the street. So that's 3 months. So, there's times to work things out. And then when you go out, you're out with a more experienced officer. And you would never let a cop that couldn't articulate themselves try and talk their way out of that, because that's not a learning experience these days. That's just a humiliation ritual. So I've got to blame both the cop and the person, that let them speak like that. Why would they allow that? It's just crazy. And the police force are defending it, and I don't think they've got a defence here, because that guy shouldn't be out in the street if he can't articulate himself. He really needs to go back for more training. Or how did he pass the training in the first place? See, this is a problem. If you're working to quotas and not best be a person for the job, yeah, then maybe you're going to take people that, dare I say it, are substandard. And that never works out for anyone. Just doesn't. Yeah, Shalini. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed tonight's little chat about the police. Is there anything you want to say about it? If you don't have anything to say just now, then hit me up in the comments. If you think I'm wrong, completely out of order, then fine. If you'd like to hear more stories about things that had happened, I could maybe do that, because I'll be honest, I haven't done the book. But I could maybe turn it into an audio book if I recorded enough stories. I've got a good one, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to save it for maybe the next time. So I hope you've all enjoyed that, and I hope I haven't put you all off. But as you know, I'm very disappointed in the way the police has gone, and I'm very disappointed in the way society is going just now, in all aspects, And I think the problem is we are starting to see the end of Western society as a whole, but it's going to take a long time to play out. And it won't play out in our lifetimes, and it might not even play out in our children's lifetimes, but it will play out at some point. I mean, the Roman Empire disintegrated as well. It took them 500 years. How long is it going to take us? Yeah. So there you go. Good conversation tonight. Thank you, Joey. You love my stories. Well, that's great. Yeah, I think we could do that. I think we could do a kind of maybe once a week I'll just come on and tell you a story or two about, because I've got loads of funny stories. I've got some horror stories as well, but I'll tell you, they're like the time I saw a ghost and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we could do that and go through all these stories. Yeah, we'll do that. That's what we'll do. So we'll maybe set that for like a Tuesday or something then. Maybe do story time. So anyway, it's been good, and thank you for listening to me. I've enjoyed getting that off my chest, because being able to vent to people about the change that you've seen in things. Because let's face it, I've been around for a long time, and I always, when I first joined the police, I always looked at older cops, and they would say things like, the job's fucked. And it's like, and you've just joined it, and you're thinking, oh, is it that bad? And the thing is, if I was there now, I'd be like, the job is fucked. Because things change, and people just, they go into things with their eyes open generally. But I think the police have just gone too far. They've become too political. They've become too subservient to organisations, to pressure groups. They really need to just stand up and do their job impartially, without fear and favour. That's what they need to do. They need to get back on it. So thank you, Mark. That's lovely of you to say so. I appreciate it. And Soul Rebel. Sausage rolls just out the oven. Oh my goodness. Is that the snacks coming out now? Right. I'm not gonna keep you any longer, but I think it's been great. For you.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. They don't wanna see me care. Anytime I make some progress, I can see that they compare. I think everyone's against me, maybe something in the air. Am I paranoid? I swear a void is forming and they're scared. I walk a straight path, not many can say that. I like to play fast, cross me and there's payback. You better pray that I don't see your face at any place that I go. I know you hate that. I've been doing fine, I'm not wasting any more time. I live for the fight and the climb, and I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I won't get back up, cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.